There are three macronutrients that make up everything you eat: fat, carbohydrates, and protein. Today, we're going to ignore fat and carbohydrates. I know that might shock you that I'm going to ignore those two, but today we're going to focus just on protein. And more specifically, 7 myths that are out there. And if this were out just in the general community, I wouldn't get so triggered by it. But there are actually doctors and dietitians and nutritionists who are repeating these myths. Some people would call them lies because these people are supposed to know better. We'll just call them myths to be politically correct today. And I want to go through these 7 myths with you and explain to you why they're just not true. And maybe delve in a little to where they came from, maybe not, because some of them are just utterly silly. So if you know someone who's gulping down the protein powders or who's trying to improve their diet, trying to improve their health, please consider sharing this video with them because it's going to help them a lot. I'm Dr. Ken Berry, a family physician with 20 years of clinical experience. And this video is going to help explode, debunk, destroy 7 myths about protein that are out there in the nutrition and medical community. Myth number 1. Eating too much protein is bad for your kidneys. I've been personally fighting this myth for over a decade, and it just will not die. There is literally no research whatsoever that shows that eating a moderate protein or a high protein diet filled with natural protein sources ever harms your kidneys. There's just zero research to support that, okay? Even people in stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 chronic kidney disease or early kidney failure, there's no research that shows that restricting protein in their diet preserves kidney function or that eating a high protein diet harms their kidney function. There is no research behind this one, guys. Please, if you hear someone say that eating too much protein is bad for your kidneys, for my sake, will you just well, never mind. Just tell them it's not true, okay? Number 2, protein is bad for your liver. And I kind of get where protein's bad for your kidneys comes from, because if you're having kidney failure, if you're having chronic kidney disease, you'll actually start to spill protein into your urine. That's one of the ways we detect it. So you can see how indirectly that myth might come to light, but protein is bad for your liver. Literally zero research supports this. There's never been a study showing that if someone eat a high protein, natural protein diet, that they harm their liver in any way. There's not an ounce of truth in this whatsoever. This is just one of the many lies. And the reason I call them lies is because a healthcare provider, a doctor, a nurse practitioner, a nutritionist, a dietitian, it's their job. They're licensed to know what they're talking about. And so if your hairdresser tells you that, then it's just a myth. But if your doctor or your nutritionist tells you that, that's a big fat lie. I actually wrote a book called Lies My Doctor Told Me. I'll put a link down below about other lies that you might be told by your healthcare provider. The next myth is that plant protein is just as good or better than animal protein. Again, there's zero research that supports this. People will tell you this if they're still afraid that saturated fat's bad for you, or that eating a diet that might raise your LDL cholesterol is bad for you. So then they say, well, I guess you better eat plant protein then, because animal protein often comes with animal fat. There's zero research to support this myth. And then there's also quite a bit of research about protein absorption, protein bioavailability, that shows beyond doubt that the human physiology is much more able to absorb and use animal protein than plant protein. I'm not saying plant protein's all bad. I'm just saying the best available protein out there is not pea protein. It's animal-sourced protein. The next myth is that you can only use 30 or 40 grams of protein from any given meal. And so if you eat 50 or 100 grams of protein in a meal, it's somehow, you don't absorb that. You can't use that. That's absolutely not true. There's a guy out there, his handle is Lane Norton, and he destroys this myth. And I agree with him. We can absorb and use much more protein than 30 or 40 grams per meal. The next myth is often has a money reason behind people saying it. And that's that you're going to get the best quality protein from a protein powder, a protein shake, a protein bar. No research supports this whatsoever. The best bioavailable, absorbable, usable proteins come from meat, from animals. Never has there been a study that's shown that a whey protein, a casein protein, any of these protein powders are better than meat. And it's never going to be done because it's impossible, because it's just not true. These things are made for convenience because it's much easier to make up a shake in 30 seconds as opposed to sizzle a ribeye 3 minutes on each side and then eat it like a candy bar, which is what I often do. But it's much easier to make up a shake and then go about your day. And you can drink that on the way to work because you kind of look funny eating a ribeye in traffic. I guess people might frown on that. I don't know. But you're never going to get the same quality of protein from a protein powder or shake. And the other thing is that it's possible that you might ingest too much protein too quickly from an artificial source, like a protein shake or a powder or a bar, any of that stuff. Because where did the protein come from? How was it sourced? How was it treated during the manufacturing process? You often don't know the answers to these questions, so I'd much prefer you stick to real protein that's naturally sourced. The next myth is that seniors don't need as much protein, or they could, because seniors often wind up eating a tea and toast diet or a oatmeal and banana diet, and they're older, they don't need as much protein. And the exact opposite of this is true. As you get older, you actually need to focus on eating more protein. Sarcopenia and osteoporosis are both 100% directly related to you not getting enough protein in your diet as you get older. You've got to make sure you're getting enough protein after the age of 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. It is vital that you focus your diet on getting enough protein. Now, keep the carbohydrates low, get plenty of fat, eat lots of fat, but you've got to get enough protein if you want to hold your muscle mass and keep your bone strength in a youthful position. The next myth out there is that soy is a good source of protein. Again, there's no research that supports this whatsoever. Quite often, the people promoting this myth or lie are the vegans, because they believe in their heart of hearts that a vegan diet or a plant-based diet is good for the planet and is ethical. And so they'll say things like this, trying to get you to use soy as a protein. I highly recommend you don't do that. Soy is very estrogenic. It's very estrogen mimicking. A good way for a man to start to develop pseudogynecomastia very quickly, which is man boobs, is to start eating or drinking lots of soy. Soy is no better a friend to the women out there either. I would not use soy as a source of protein. It doesn't even hold a candle to animal-based proteins. The next myth is that, and this is another one that the vegans commonly say, is that animal source protein is bad for your bones. It might even actually cause osteoporosis. Again, nothing could be further from the truth. Most people think of bones as calcium. Bones are they're literally made of animal protein. And then you put the calcium and other minerals around that protein matrix. Your bones, let me say it again, are literally made of animal protein. That's what they are. So there's never been a credible study that shows that eating protein will cause or increase your risk of developing osteoporosis. There is no truth to that whatsoever. So I would just say you are never going to eat too much protein if you are eating naturally sourced protein products. Sure, you can get some protein from plant-based sources, from vegetables, but the majority of your protein should come from animal sources. The majority of your protein should not come from protein shakes, from protein bars, which often wind up being carbohydrate bars if you do the math. You need to be eating meat. Meat is where human beings get protein from. For all of our existence on this planet, when our body needed protein, we turned to animal foods to get that protein every single time. Now, I have a couple of other videos on this channel about protein. They'll pop up right here. And then if you haven't already done so and you enjoyed this video, please take a second and click that subscribe button and the little bell button right beside it, so that every time I have a bright idea, you'll be one of the very first to know. Also, you can tell from this video, I'm not a big fan of processed food, and therefore processed food, big food, they're not a big fan of me either. So I'm probably never going to be sponsored or have a show on network television because I would destroy their profits. So please take 1 second and click on my Patreon link. It's right down in the show notes. It's a super quick sign up. You can throw $1 or $2 my way so that I have more time and resources to make videos just like this one. This is Dr. Barry. I'll see you next time.